The night was cold, and the sky above was filled with broken stars. A human walked alone, his boots torn, his jacket covered in dust. His name was Daniel, but here, in this strange alien world, names had no meaning. He was only a shadow moving through ruins. A man struggling to survive. Daniel had been running for days. Chased by hunger, chased by fear, chased by silence. He had no weapon, only a dull knife tied to his belt, and a memory of home that was fading. The city he entered now was not his own. It was alien, filled with tall stone arches broken in half, streets cracked open like wounds. The air smelled of metal and smoke, no birds, no animals, only the sound of the wind moving through empty walls. As Daniel walked deeper into the ruins, he felt eyes watching. But when he turned, nothing was there. The shadows stretched long, and the silence pressed heavy on his chest. He knew this place was wrong, but he had nowhere else to go. He needed shelter, water, maybe even food if luck still lived in this cruel world. Then he saw it at the center of the marketplace, a pillar, tall and black. Strange symbols glowed across its surface, each mark sharp and cruel, and tied to the pillar was a girl. She was not human. Her skin was pale, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Her hair fell long over her face, tangled but shining like silver. Her wrists were bound with heavy chains, and her ankles too. Around her neck hung a glowing sign written in alien script. Daniel squinted, and the letters burned into his mind in words he could understand. Take as you please. Punished. His breath caught. The message was cruel, mocking, as if she was not a person, but an object left for anyone to break. He felt his chest tighten, a mix of anger and fear. He had seen many brutal things since he left Earth, but this was different. The girl did not cry, she did not beg. She only lifted her head and stared at him. Her eyes glowed faint blue, deep like oceans. There was no sound in them, no words, but there was fire. She was alive, and she was watching him. Daniel took one step closer. The chains rattled softly as her body shifted, but she did not move to fight, did not move to run. She only looked at him as if waiting. His heart pounded. He wanted to ask, "Who did this to you?" But his voice stuck in his throat. Then the ground trembled. A low, heavy sound echoed through the ruins. Footsteps, not his own, not hers, many. Heavy, steady, coming closer. Daniel's breath grew fast. He scanned the broken streets. Shadows moved, armor clinked. Voices in a tongue he could not understand whispered through the air. The girl's eyes flicked to the sound, then back to him. For the first time, her body shifted forward. Pulling against her chains, her lips parted. But no words came out. She was mute, but her look screamed louder than any cry. Run! Or free me. Daniel's knife felt suddenly heavy at his side. He looked at the chains, thick metal locked tight. Could he break them? Could he risk his life for her? The sound of the approaching aliens grew louder. He could hear their steps, their armor scraping stone. Their low growls carried by the wind. Daniel's hands shook. Every part of his mind screamed to leave, to hide, to save himself, but he couldn't move. Those eyes, those silent, burning eyes held him there. He thought of Earth. He thought of the people he had lost, and he thought, if I walk away now, I am no better than the monsters that tied her here. He stepped closer. The girl did not flinch. Her chains clattered as he touched them. Cold and rough, he pulled at them with all his strength. But they did not break. His knife struck against the lock, sparks flying. Each sound echoed in the empty market. Each strike louder as the footsteps came closer. The girl's eyes widened. She pulled with him, straining against her bindings. Her silent breath quick, desperate. Together, human and alien fought against cold iron. Until a sharp snap, one chain broke free. The sound echoed like thunder. Daniel froze, his heart racing. The footsteps stopped. Voices rose in the distance. Angry, alert, they had heard. The girl leaned forward, her hands now free. But her legs were still bound. Daniel dropped to his knees. Slashing at the chains on her ankles, the lock sparked, cracked. He pulled again, the air filled with light. From the corner of the ruins, shadows moved. Figures appeared. Tall, armored, glowing red eyes in the dark. Alien guards, hunters, their faces twisted, their weapons raised. They shouted in words he did not know, but the meaning was clear. Stop. Daniel's knife slipped. The chain snapped free. The girl fell into his arms, light as paper but shaking. Her eyes locked with his, and for a moment, he saw something strange. Not just fear, but trust, as if she knew he would not leave her. The guards roared, stepping forward, weapons ready. Daniel lifted the girl, pulling her against his chest. His breath burned. His heart thundered. He turned, running into the dark streets. The sound of pursuit filled the air behind him. The glowing sign on the pillar flickered and died. The words "take as you please and punished" vanished, and in their place for 1 second, another message appeared. "She is not what you think." Then the light was gone. Only darkness remained, only running, only the sound of a human carrying a silent alien girl into the unknown. And the chase had begun. The night was colder than the day, and the ruined city felt like a grave. The human, Ethan, sat near the broken pillar where he had first found the alien girl, his mind still storming with questions. Why was she tied like that? Why the cruel sign, "take as you please"? And most of all, why did her terrified eyes hold so much meaning? As if she had been waiting only for him. The girl had not spoken a word, but she followed him closely, her chains now broken, her steps light and fearful. Every sound in the dark made her flinch. Every shadow made her grip his sleeve tighter. She had a collar around her neck, glowing faintly with alien symbols. Sometimes it pulsed with light, almost alive. Ethan wanted to tear it off, but when he touched it, she shook her head violently, her eyes wide with fear. It was clear the collar was dangerous. Maybe deadly. They moved through the ruins. Searching for shelter, the air was filled with smoke and dust. The smell of burned stone and metal. Old signs of war lay everywhere, broken vehicles, shattered towers, skeletons turned to dust by time. But in the middle of this silence, Ethan kept feeling like someone was watching them. The girl stopped suddenly, her ears twitching. Yes, her ears. They were not like human ears, but long, sharp, almost like an animal's. Able to catch the smallest sound, she pulled Ethan's arm and dragged him into the shadow of a collapsed wall. A moment later he heard it too, footsteps, heavy, metallic, echoing across the ruins. Shapes appeared in the distance, tall armored creatures, carrying spears that glowed blue. Their eyes burned like coals inside their helmets. They walked slowly, scanning the ruins with devices that hummed and clicked. Ethan's heart hammered. The girl pressed a finger to her lips. Begging him for silence, they crouched lower. Hidden among broken stone, the patrol passed by, but one of the creatures stopped. It turned its head toward them as if sensing something. The humming device in its hand flickered red. Ethan held his breath. The girl squeezed his hand so tight it almost hurt. The armored creature tilted its head, sniffed the air through its mask, then slowly turned back to its group. The patrol moved on, their glowing weapons leaving a trail of light in the dark. Only when they were gone did the girl release him. Trembling, she looked at him with such relief, as if he had saved her life simply by not moving. They kept walking, but now Ethan knew something for certain. She wasn't just any alien girl. She was wanted, hunted, and whoever had chained her to that pillar had not been punishing her for fun. They had been putting her on display, waiting for someone or something to claim her at last. They found shelter in an old underground station, half buried by rubble. Inside, broken screens still glowed faintly, powered by some long-forgotten system. It smelled of rust and mold, but at least it was safe. They sat by a broken bench. Ethan gave her some of his water and she drank carefully, her hands shaking for the first time. She tried to speak. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Her throat strained, but nothing. Only silence. She grew frustrated, hit her chest, then pointed at her throat angrily. Mute, she couldn't speak. Instead, she drew something in the dust with her finger. Strange symbols. Sharp, curved lines. Her language. Ethan frowned. Shaking his head, she sighed, then tried again. This time drawing a simple shape. A star. She pointed at herself, then pointed far upward, toward the night sky beyond the cracks in the ceiling. Not from here, she was from the stars. Then she drew another symbol. A collar around a neck, with lines like fire coming out. She touched her own glowing collar, then slammed her hand into the ground, as if to say bad, dangerous. Her eyes locked on his, pleading. Ethan understood this collar wasn't just punishment, it was a curse, a weapon, maybe even a bomb, and then they heard it. A scream, far away but sharp, cutting through the silence of the ruins. Not human, not like her either. It was deep, monstrous, filled with rage. The girl froze, her skin pale, her body trembling. She clung to Ethan's arm. Shaking her head wildly, her eyes said everything. We cannot stay here. But Ethan, stubborn as always, stood up. He had been running his whole life, from wars, from enemies, from despair. Not this time. He looked into the shadows where the scream had come from. His jaw set. The girl pulled at him, begging, but he refused to move. And then, out of the dark, a shape emerged. Huge, twice the size of a man, its body armored with bone-like plates. Its eyes glowed red, its claws scraping the walls. It sniffed the air, then locked onto them. The girl let out a silent cry, grabbing Ethan's sleeve. The creature roared, shaking the ground. Ethan raised his fists, his heart pounding. He had no weapons, no armor, nothing but willpower. But he wasn't about to let this thing touch her. The creature charged, the ground cracking under its steps. Ethan braced himself, but before it could strike, the girl stepped forward. Her collar blazed with sudden light. Brighter than fire, the glow spread across her skin, her eyes shining like twin moons. The monster stopped mid-charge, recoiling as if burned. Ethan stared in shock. The girl was no helpless victim. She was something far more dangerous, and maybe that was why she had been chained. Punished, hunted, the monster roared again. Circling them, the girl trembled, holding the light back as if fighting to control it. Ethan realized something. This power was not her choice, it was the collar forcing it out. And if she lost control, the explosion would kill them both. The creature lunged once more. Ethan grabbed a broken metal pipe from the ground. If he was going to die, he would fight. The girl's glow intensified, her body shaking with the effort. And in that moment, the ruins were filled with both light and shadow. A war was beginning in the dark. The underground station shook with the monster's roar. Dust fell from the cracked ceiling. Broken lights flickered weakly. Ethan gripped the metal pipe in his hands, sweat running down his face. The alien girl stood beside him, her collar glowing brighter, the symbols burning like fire on her skin. The creature circled them slowly, its heavy claws scraping against stone. Its eyes were locked not on Ethan, but on her. It wanted her, not to kill, not to eat, no. Its hunger was different, it wanted what she carried. The girl's glow flared again, almost blinding. Her body shook violently, as if the collar was pulling her apart. Ethan reached out, grabbing her shoulders. "Stay with me," he whispered. But she could not hear his words, only the chain of the collar forcing its power through her. The creature lunged, jaws wide. Ethan shoved her behind him and swung the pipe with all his strength. The metal struck the beast's face with a sickening crack. The monster staggered back, surprised but not hurt. It snarled, lifting its claw, ready to slice Ethan in half, and then the girl screamed. For the first time since Ethan had met her, sound came from her mouth, not words, not language, just a raw, powerful cry. The collar burst with light, a wave of energy exploding outward. The monster was thrown back against the wall, its armored body cracking under the impact. The ground split open, dust filling the air. Ethan shielded his eyes when the light faded. The girl collapsed to her knees, her chest heaving. The collar dimmed again, its glow fading into a dull red. The creature groaned, still alive but weakened. It dragged itself out of the rubble, its eyes burning hotter with rage. Ethan grabbed the girl's arm, pulling her up. "We have to move." She stumbled but nodded, letting him lead her through the broken tunnels. Behind them, the monster roared again, forcing its broken body to follow. Every step it took shook the ground like thunder. They ran through twisting corridors, past shattered doors and fallen beams. Ethan's lungs burned, but he refused to slow down. The girl's chains rattled as she ran. Her breath shallow, her glowing collar pulsed faster, as if reacting to the chase. Finally, they reached a large chamber, once an old control room. Broken screens lined the walls, wires hung like vines from the ceiling. Ethan slammed the door shut behind them, dragging heavy debris to block it. The girl collapsed against the wall, clutching her collar, her face pale. For a moment, silence returned. Ethan crouched in front of her, his chest heaving. "Tell me what this is," he said, pointing to the collar. "Why are they after you? Why were you chained to that pillar?" She looked at him with wide, glassy eyes, then slowly she reached out, her trembling finger pressing against his chest. She drew a symbol with her fingertip, the same one that glowed on her collar. Ethan stared at it, not understanding, but then one of the broken screens sparked. The dead machine flickered back to life. A face appeared on it, alien, sharp, cruel. It spoke in a language Ethan didn't know, but the girl flinched as if struck, pressing herself against the wall in fear. The face on the screen sneered. Its alien words rolled like poison. But then, to Ethan's shock, it switched into rough, broken English. You, human, found the cursed one. You are doomed now. Ethan stood, pipe still in hand. Who are you? He demanded. The face ignored him, focusing on the girl. You were marked for punishment. Chained for all to see, you are weapon, not child, and now you bring death to all who touch you. The girl shook her head violently, tears filling her eyes. She reached toward the screen as if to beg. But the alien face only laughed. Run, little traitor. The collar will burn your soul and all who stay near you. The hunters will come, the beast will not stop, and the galaxy will watch as you destroy the human who pitied you. The screen went dark. The control room silent once more. Ethan's blood boiled. He looked at the girl, her tears falling silently, her body trembling. He should have been afraid. He should have left her, but instead his anger only grew. He crouched in front of her, lifting her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. You're not a weapon, he said firmly. You're not cursed, I don't care what they say. You're alive, you're yours, not theirs. She stared at him. Shocked by his words, her trembling slowed. Her tears paused. For the first time, a small spark of hope lit her eyes. But then the wall behind them cracked. The monster had found them. Its claws tore through concrete, ripping apart the control room entrance. Ethan grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her back. The beast forced its way in, roaring, its broken body healing before their eyes. And worse, behind it more shapes appeared. The armored hunters, their glowing spears raised. They had followed the trail. Now the girl was trapped between the monster and the hunters. Her collar glowed brighter, burning her skin. The power inside her screamed to be unleashed. But Ethan saw the terror in her eyes. If she let go, she wouldn't survive, and neither would he. The hunters shouted in their alien tongue, their spears aimed at her. The monster snarled, snapping its jaws. The collar's light became blinding. The girl clutched it desperately. Her body shaking, Ethan held her shoulders, shouting above the chaos, "Look at me. Stay with me. You're stronger than this." For one heartbeat, she looked at him, and in her eyes, he saw something, not just fear, not just pain, but a choice, a spark of defiance. The chamber filled with light and shadow. The ground trembled. The hunters advanced. The monster roared. And the mute alien girl, the one who had been chained, punished, hunted, stood up, her collar blazing like a star, her silent scream shaking the ruins. And for the first time, the hunters faltered, even the monster hesitated. Because what stood before them was no longer prey. It was power. The chamber glowed like the inside of a dying star. Shadows and fire danced across the cracked walls. Ethan stood with the alien girl at his side, his pipe clutched tight in his hands. Her collar blazed brighter than ever before. A cruel chain turned into a beacon. The hunters froze in their steps, their spears humming with alien power. Even the monster hesitated, its glowing eyes narrowing as if uncertain. The girl trembled, her lips parted, but no sound came. The scream that had shaken the ruins moments ago was gone, but her silence spoke louder than any roar. She was changing, her fragile form wrapped in an aura that bent the air itself. Ethan's heart pounded. He wanted to drag her away, to run, but deep down, he knew there was no running anymore. Not from the hunters, not from the beast, not from the truth locked inside her. One hunter stepped forward, his armor cracked with glowing blue lines. His voice was harsh, guttural, echoing through the chamber. This one belongs to the tribunal. She was chained for all to take, for all to see, for all to punish, and you, human, have touched the cursed one. He lifted his spear, the tip glowing with energy. Her fate is sealed. So now so is yours. The girl clutched Ethan's arm desperately. Her glowing collar burned against her neck, smoke rising from her skin. She shook her head violently, as if begging him not to fight, not to die for her. But Ethan's jaw tightened. He stepped in front of her. Pipe raised, his voice was steady, his eyes burning with defiance. Then you'll have to take me first. The hunters laughed, a cold, metallic sound. Human courage, one spat, always pointless, always short, but before they could strike. The monster roared again. It lunged forward, knocking hunters aside like dolls. Its massive claws swiped through the chamber, sending debris flying. The hunters stumbled, regrouping quickly. But their focus shifted now the beast was in their way. Ethan pulled the girl back as the battle erupted. Spears clashed against claws, sparks lit the chamber. The air filled with screams and roars. The hunters struck with deadly precision, their weapons piercing the monster's hide. But the beast healed with every wound. Growing wilder with pain, the girl's collar pulsed faster, her glow sinking with the chaos. She trembled as if the fight outside was happening inside her. Ethan saw her body convulsing, her hands gripping the chain as if she could tear it off. "Stop, don't fight it alone," he whispered. But she didn't hear him. The light grew unbearable. Symbols ran across her skin like fire. Her eyes glowed white. Her silent mouth opened in a scream that no sound carried. And then, the battle froze. The hunters stopped mid-swing. The monster halted mid-roar. Every living thing in the chamber turned toward her. The girl's aura surged outward, touching every shadow, every breath of dust. Her body floated an inch above the ground, her chains rattling in the air. And suddenly, images burst into Ethan's mind. Not his memories, not hers, but something older. He saw a courtroom of stars, alien judges in armor of light. The girl chained before them, silent as always. Their voices thundered across galaxies. "She is the key. She will not speak, she will not choose, she will only serve as punishment." For her crime was not of action, but of birth. Ethan staggered. Clutching his head, the visions clawed at his mind. He saw her chained to 1,000 pillars, mocked by 1,000 voices, her silence twisted into shame. Her glow turned into a curse, and then he saw Earth, burning in the same visions, marked by the same collar. Ethan gasped, falling to his knees. The girl collapsed beside him, her light flickering weakly. The visions faded, leaving the chamber real again. The hunters recovered first, their voices filled with awe and dread. "She has awakened, the caller speaks. The tribunal will come." One of them raised his spear toward Ethan. "You saw it too, human. Now you are marked. You cannot leave alive," the monster roared again, slamming into the hunters before they could strike. Its jaws clamped down on one, ripping him apart in a spray of alien sparks. The others shouted, clashing with it once more. The chamber became war, but Ethan's focus stayed on the girl. She lay trembling, her hands gripping the collar as if it was suffocating her. Ethan knelt, pulling her close. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly. And in that moment, for the first time, he heard her voice. Not from her lips, but inside his mind. "Help me, please." Ethan's breath caught. "You can speak," he whispered. Her lips didn't move, but the voice echoed in his skull. "Only to you. Only now, before the collar takes me again." Tears burned in his eyes. "No, I won't let it. I don't care what they say. I don't care what you were born for. I'll break it. I'll free you." Her glow dimmed further, her silent words barely reaching him. "If you try, the tribunal will hunt you, the galaxy will turn. You will be destroyed." Ethan lifted her chin, forcing her to look at him. His voice was steady, a whisper but sharp as steel. "Let them come." Behind them, the monster crushed another hunter. The chamber burned with chaos, but in that small corner, in that broken moment, a human and a chained alien girl forged something stronger than fear. And yet, outside the chamber, far beyond the tunnels, in the void between stars, a beacon had been lit. The collar's awakening had sent a signal, and something vast and merciless had heard. The tribunal was coming. The ruins trembled like the bones of a dying world. Stone cracked, dust rained from the ceiling, and firelight twisted across the broken carvings. The battle raged on behind them, the monster tearing hunters apart, hunters stabbing and burning its flesh with their glowing spears. But Ethan had no time left. The girl was slipping away in his arms, her glow fading like a candle drowning in its own wax. He pulled her close and forced his body forward, stumbling through the smoke-filled corridors. Every step was agony, but his grip on her never wavered. Her collar pulsed weakly, and with each pulse, whispers echoed in his skull. "Run! They will come. It is too late." "No!" Ethan growled, his voice raw. "It's never too late." The tunnel stretched like a labyrinth, twisting deeper, darker. Sometimes the girl's faint light was the only thing keeping him from drowning in the shadows. Sometimes he thought the hunter's laughter still chased him, echoing behind, but finally the tunnels opened. The night sky hit him like a shock. Above them stretched a sea of stars, endless and merciless. And in that moment, Ethan saw it, a tear in the sky, a ripple of black fire spreading across the constellations. The girl stirred in his arms, her eyes fluttering open. Her lips didn't move, but her voice filled his mind again. "They are here. The tribunal. They heard me." Ethan's chest tightened, the ripple spread wider, burning across the heavens, and then ships appeared. Dozens, then hundreds, sliding out of the void. Their hulls gleamed like obsidian, carved with the same cruel symbols as her collar. They were silent, but their silence was heavier than thunder. The girl trembled, her weak fingers clutching his shirt. I told you. They come for me, they come for punishment, and now they will punish you too. Ethan set her down against a broken pillar. His eyes stayed on the sky, his jaw clenched. He had seen ships before, rusted freighters orbiting Mars, military vessels patrolling Earth's orbit. But nothing like this. These ships weren't built for war, they were built for judgment. One broke from the swarm, descending. It didn't roar like engines should. It sang, a low, endless note that shook the air, the ground, the blood in his veins. The ship landed with no dust, no fire, no tremor, it simply existed, and the air bent around it like it had always been there. A ramp unfolded, figures stepped out, tall, armored, their helmets glowing with lines of alien law. Their eyes burned with light, but their faces were hidden. One spoke. Its voice was not sound, but thought. It entered Ethan's head like a command carved into stone. Human, you have touched the cursed, you have seen what was forbidden. By the tribunal's law, you are already dead. Ethan's knuckles tightened around his pipe. His heart pounded, fear clawed at his chest. But he forced himself to speak. No, you chained her. You silenced her. You made her suffer. I won't let you take her again. The tribunal soldier tilted its head. Another stepped forward, its hand lifting. Light burned in its palm like a star about to ignite. But before it could strike, the girl's glow flared. Her weak body pushed forward, collapsing, yet the collar shone blinding white. The soldiers froze. Their helmets turned toward her in unison. The key resists. Their voices thundered together. She should not resist. She must not resist. The girl's voice pierced Ethan's mind, sharper now, desperate. Ethan, they cannot touch me while I awaken. But my strength is almost gone. If I fall now, they will take me forever. Ethan looked at her. Then at the soldiers. The sky burned with hundreds of ships above. Their lights aimed at the planet like executioners' torches. He had no weapon, no shield. Just a bent pipe and a fire in his chest, but he stood tall. His voice cut through the tribunal's endless drone. Then I'll hold them off as long as it takes. Until you're strong enough to fight back. The soldiers tilted their heads again. Human defiance, always meaningless. They raised their hands together. The air twisted, the ground shook. Light erupted. Streaming toward Ethan like a wall of fire, he braced. And the monster crashed through the ruins. It roared, its body broken but not dead. It leapt into the tribunal soldiers, smashing them aside with claws and teeth. The light shattered against its hide. The soldiers staggered, their precision broken. Ethan grabbed the girl and pulled her up again. Move, he shouted, even though she could barely stand. They stumbled through the ruins as the monster battled the tribunal. The sky thundered with alien songs. More ships descending. Every second was chaos. Every breath survival. The girl's glow pulsed against him, her voice weak but clear in his head. Why do you fight for me? You don't know what I am. You don't know what I've done. You don't know what I will bring. Ethan gritted his teeth, his words sharp. I don't care. I don't need to know. You're not a punishment. You're not a weapon. You're a person. And I won't let them chain you again. The girl stared at him, her glowing eyes wide for the first time. Tears streamed down her face, glowing like liquid fire. She whispered in his mind, soft as a breath. Then you are already more dangerous than me. Above them, the ship shifted. A massive one descended, dwarfing the rest. Its hull glowed with symbols Ethan couldn't understand. But his heart froze the moment he saw it. This was no soldier's ship, this was a throne. The tribunal itself was here. The air turned heavy. The world itself seemed to bow, and a voice unlike the others filled the night. It was vast, endless. It wasn't thought or sound, it was law. Bring the cursed and the human. Ethan's grip tightened on the girl's hand. His chest heaved, but his eyes didn't break. The girl trembled, glowing, broken, but alive. And for the first time since her chains, she did not look like prey. She looked like fire waiting to burn. The storm over the alien city burned brighter that night. And for the first time, the people dared to whisper in the streets. They whispered not about their cruel masters, not about the punishments or the chains, but about the strange human who had appeared like a shadow from nowhere. They whispered of how he had broken the pillar, how he had stolen back the girl no one was allowed to touch, they whispered, and their fear was mixing with something dangerous. Hope. The human moved through the ruined alleys with the alien girl close to him. She held his arm tighter than before, her silent eyes full of questions he still could not answer. The bond between them had become something more than survival. It was unspoken, but it was there, a connection stronger than words. But every step forward was met with the sound of pursuit. The enforcers had unleashed their hunters. Creatures bred for blood and silence, they were neither machine nor beast. But both their claws cut across stone, leaving deep lines as they tracked the scent of the human. Their trial begins. He stopped in a narrow street, his chest rising and falling. He had been running for hours, yet his body seemed to resist exhaustion. It was strange, almost unnatural. He glanced at his arm where the girl's touch lingered. Was it her presence, or something deeper tied to the pillar's curse? Before he could think further, a sound came from the shadows, a hiss low and cruel. Then eyes opened in the dark, 6 pairs of glowing orbs staring at them. The hunters had arrived. The girl tugged on his sleeve, urging him back, her eyes wide with terror. But the human did not move, his jaw clenched. He stepped forward instead. "You want me?" he whispered under his breath, his voice calm though his heart thundered. "Then come and try." The first hunter leapt, its body twisting in the air like a spear of flesh and metal. The human ducked, his hand grabbing a loose pipe from the ground. With a roar, he swung, the strike landing square across the creature's jaw. The impact sent the beast crashing against the wall. The others circled, their claws clicking, their bodies weaving patterns like predators surrounding prey. The girl pressed herself to the wall, her breath trembling. She wanted to scream, but she could not. Her voice had been stolen long ago. The human's arms bled, his legs burned, but his eyes were sharp. Every move the hunters made, he saw before it happened, as if his body remembered battles he had never fought. His instincts had awakened, and they belonged to something far older. One hunter lunged low, the other high. But the human twisted, his pipe slamming downward, shattering teeth and bone. He ducked under the other, grabbing its arm and wrenching it backward until it snapped. The air was filled with the sound of bones breaking, metal cracking, and the hiss of beasts in pain. But the fight was not without cost. One claw slashed across his back, tearing deep. Blood poured freely. Staining the ground, the girl reached out, her fingers brushing his hand. For a moment, the pain dulled. His strength surged again. He rose like a storm. The hunters fell one by one until only silence remained. Their broken bodies littered the alley. The human stood covered in wounds. His breath heavy, he dropped the pipe, his hand trembling. But when he turned to the girl, he forced a smile. "We're still alive," he whispered. Her eyes glistened, her hands shaking as she pressed them against his wounds. Her silent lips formed words he couldn't hear. But he understood she did not want him to fall. But in the shadows above, more eyes opened. The city was waking, the rulers had heard. The escape was no longer just an escape, it was war. Suddenly a voice boomed through the air. Deep and resonant, it came from speakers hidden across the towers. "Human," the voice said, cold and cruel. "You are no longer prey. You are a challenge." The girl flinched. Holding on to him, the human lifted his head, his eyes burning with defiance. The storm above grew darker, lightning tearing across the sky like broken chains. The whispers in the city grew louder, stronger. People looked out of their windows, their fear trembling against their hope. And in that moment, the human understood. This fight was no longer his alone. The entire city was watching. The entire world was waiting. He stood tall, even with blood dripping down his back. He raised his hand as if challenging the storm itself. "They'll come," he muttered to himself, his voice steel. "But I'll be ready." The girl squeezed his hand tighter. And for the first time he felt it, not just strength, but purpose. The hunters were dead, but the real enemy was on its way. And when it came, it would not find a broken man. It would find a human who had learned to fight like no one else in the galaxy. The war was beginning, and the first spark had already been lit. The storm above the alien city had turned black. Lightning split the sky like the claws of some god tearing open the heavens. The people gathered in alleys and doorways, eyes wide, voices low. They had never seen such defiance, never heard such screams from the hunters before. Rumors spread faster than fire. "The human killed them," they whispered. "The human fights back." And in every whisper there was a tremor, a dangerous seed hope. The human stood in the middle of the ruined street, his back bleeding, his chest heaving. The alien girl held onto his arm. her touch the only thing keeping his body upright. Her silent eyes glistened with both fear and faith. He looked down at her, and for a moment the noise of the city faded. "You gave me strength when I had nothing," he said. Voice raw. "Now I'll give it back." Above them, the speaker's voice thundered again, cruel and commanding. "Human, you have broken our law. You have killed what cannot be killed. For this you will be erased. And the girl will suffer until the end of her bloodline." The girl flinched, clutching her collar, the mark of her punishment glowing faintly. The words cut her deeper than any blade. But before despair could sink in, the human placed a hand over hers, covering the mark. "No," he said, eyes burning like fire. "No more chains." From the towers, armored figures descended, not hunters but soldiers. Their armor gleamed black, their weapons charged with red energy. They landed around the street like iron statues. Weapons raised, they did not speak, they had no need. Their silence was the sound of absolute power. The human stepped forward, though his legs trembled. The girl tried to pull him back, shaking her head desperately, but he only smiled at her. A smile cracked with blood but filled with something unbreakable. "I'll fight," he whispered. "For both of us." The soldiers advanced. Their boots struck the ground in unison. Their weapons hummed. Energy charged in the air like a storm ready to burst. The human picked up the broken pipe again, his fingers tightening around it. He knew it was madness, one man against an army. But his heart refused to yield. The first soldier raised his weapon and fired. The bolt of red light screamed through the air. The girl gasped, but the human moved. He raised his hand, and the impossible happened. The bolt stopped, inches from his chest. It quivered in the air, glowing. Then it shattered into sparks. The soldiers froze. The crowd watching from the shadows froze. Even the girl stared in disbelief. The human looked at his own hand, trembling. The truth hit him like thunder. Something inside him had awakened. Something alien yet human. The pillar had not just been a punishment for her. It had been a prison of power, and when he broke it, some of that power had fused into him. The next soldier lunged, sword crackling with red fire. The human moved faster than thought. He sidestepped and slammed the pipe across the soldier's helmet. The alien dropped instantly. Armor shattered. The others attacked, but the fight had changed. He was no longer only a man with a weapon. He was a storm given flesh. He weaved between strikes, his pipe glowing faintly as if alive. Every swing broke metal. Every strike sent shockwaves through the air. The girl watched, her silent tears flowing. She had never seen freedom before, never believed it was possible. But now, in front of her eyes, a human fought against an empire, and he was winning. Still, the battle was not easy. The soldiers overwhelmed him. Their blades cut into his arms. Their weapons burned his flesh. But every time he staggered, the girl touched his skin, and every time she did, strength surged into him again. He realized then, her bond with him was the key. Her curse had always drained her, but now it was feeding him. Her silent suffering had become his weapon, and together, they were unstoppable. The soldiers fell one after another, their armor cracking, their weapons shattering, until only silence remained. The street was littered with broken bodies, smoke rising from the ruins. The crowd stared, their fear turning into something new. They whispered not of doom, but of rebellion. Then the ground trembled. The towers shook, the sky split with a roar. From the largest spire, a massive figure emerged, taller than any soldier, clad in armor of burning silver. Its eyes glowed like suns. Its voice rumbled like the earth itself. "You dare?" the ruler bellowed. "You dare defy us, human? You are nothing. You are dust beneath our feet." The human stood tall, though his body bled from 100 wounds. He looked at the alien girl who clung to his arm. Her eyes begged him not to fall, not now. He turned back to the towering ruler, and his voice rang across the city. "Strong, unshaken, I may be dust," he said, "but dust can choke the mightiest beast." The ruler roared and charged. The street shook as if the world itself would break. The human raised his pipe. The girl pressed her hand to his back. And in that instant, their bond ignited fully. The collar on her neck shattered, blue flames bursting from it like wings. The human's body blazed with the same light. His wounds closed, his strength multiplied. His eyes burned with fire not of this world. Together they leapt, man and girl bound by one soul. The clash shook the city. Sparks and lightning split the sky. The ruler screamed in rage, his armor breaking piece by piece. The people below watched with tears in their eyes. For the first time in centuries, they saw something greater than fear. They saw freedom. The human struck one final blow. His pipe pierced through the ruler's chest. The blue flames from the girl consumed the monster. The air filled with a scream that shook the stars. Then silence. The ruler fell. His body crumbled. The towers dimmed. The storm above broke apart. The sky was clear. The people dropped to their knees, not in fear, but in awe. The human stood in the ruins, the girl at his side, her collar gone, her eyes filled with tears of freedom. He looked at her, breathing heavy. "It's over," he whispered. She shook her head, her silent lips forming words. He understood them, even without sound. "No, it begins." And in the silence of that night, the galaxy shifted. A single human and a broken girl had lit the fire that would burn an empire.